You're listening to a Rock Candy podcast.
Hi, my name is Stephen Long, and I host a show here on Rock Candy called Sacred Tension. It's about the spiritual discipline of asking questions. If you find yourself uncomfortable in your faith, or if you find yourself caught between modern science and ancient religion, or if you're curious about the journeys of others who are sorting out faith and doubt, Sacred Tension is a place where nothing is off limits. You will find conversations with pastors, cult experts, spiritual leaders, and skeptics, all discussing the ways we navigate the faiths we were given. Find Sacred Tension right here on Rock Candy and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to the Eleventylife podcast.
What's up, unicorns? Welcome to this week's episode of Eleventylife. For those of you who might be new to the show, my name is Matt. I am a songwriter and producer here at the beautiful Rock Candy Recordings in Asheville, North Carolina. And my band, Eleventyseven, is the namesake for this show. I absolutely love being able to sit down and talk with other songwriters, producers, mix engineers, creative people involved in the music industry, pursuing their passions, pursuing their dreams, comparing notes on best practice, on what's actually working, how the industry is changing, how our creative process changes over time. And today is part 2 of my conversation with the absolutely brilliant Ben Cramer of Old Sea Brigade. If you have not listened to part 1 of this conversation, I encourage you to go back and hit that podcast first. We'll probably make everything that we talk about in this episode a little bit more clear and concise. Before we get into today's episode, huge hugs and high fives to everybody who is streaming our brand new single Weird Ones on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, wherever you get your tunes. Those streams help us to keep the lights on here, and we are incredibly appreciative of everyone who chooses to allow our songs into your everyday life. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You guys are absolutely wonderful. You can get to our music and find out more about what we do here at Rock Candy Recordings in the show notes for this show. It's really simple, it's really easy, and while you're there, click on that link to the new Old Sea Brigade album. It's amazing. I hope you all are soaking up this fall weather and having as many bonfires, campfires, hikes, and weekend getaways as you can. It's going to be cold as hell any minute now, and I am doing my best to soak it up as well. All the best to you and yours, and without further ado, here's part 2 of my conversation with Ben Cramer of Old Sea Brigade. Correct me if I'm wrong, is Monochrome, right? So that's an EP. I was under the impression whenever you were here, like over a year ago, that you guys were working on like a full length. So this is in conjunction. This is like an EP leading up to a full length release, or?
Yeah, the new thing now within the age of streaming is to put out half the record before the record's out. Because
absolutely.
I mean, I love the idea, and this is again probably an ego thing. I love the idea of disappearing and making one Instagram post that, hey, I've been gone for 3 years, and here's a record, and it's amazing, and you're all gonna love it, and everyone's gonna come to my show, and all of that, and I put it out, but it just doesn't work like that.
Right.
So it's now we put out one song, I think every 6 weeks or 2 months. I don't know. I let my record label manager.
Yeah, no, that totally, that sounds on par with like best practice for.
But it's fine, like, because I'm guilty of it now too. Like, there's certain artists I know, okay, their record's coming out, I can't wait to listen to it. But it's really nice. Like on every Friday, I'm like, let's check out what's new in, the hip hop world, and let's go check out this coffee house playlist, and all the rock world. It keeps it interesting and fun. And I'm just as ADD as everybody else is with the information being put right in front of me, left and right. So I get it. I mean, I still love records. I want to make records because I feel like every record, it has its own journey, and I want to look back on. I look back on Ode to a Friend that Jeremy and I made like in 2018 and 2019. And, I was like, I really cherished those times, and I learned a lot from that. And you don't learn for me, I'm not saying everybody, but like for me, I don't learn as much about myself as a person and artist and all that unless I'm like really deep diving in on, making a record and dealing with all the struggles of it too. Because it can be every time we go into it. Yeah, I remember when we started this record, the 5 a.m. Paradise that comes out next month, October 28th.
Nice plug.
But I remember when we went into it, I was like, we got all the songs together. Like, we know exactly what we're going to do. We'll knock it out fast. Yeah. And then like 2 months later, what the fuck are we doing?
Right.
Then mixing, we're like, we need to remix the whole thing. It's always that, but it should be a struggle. I don't want everyone, I don't want to agree with Jeremy and Owen on everything. I want there to be pushback because it means everyone cares. And I don't want everyone to tell me they like everything. I want people to say, hey, like, that's fine. You can do it better. Or like, cool, you like this song, but I like this other song. I think we should do that one. I'm like, well, I think we should do this one. And then we do the one I want. And then the whole time I want to push myself to prove that like, I want to prove the song's potential and, and so I'll push myself even harder. Yeah. And there's these little mind games and things you can, that, if you're not careful, you can kind of trip yourself up. But a lot of times too, you can use it as motivation to just try to make something that you're really proud of. And then the whole process of putting out the record and having to play it is a total mindfuck as well, because like I really can't listen to my own music because after it's out, because it's just, what am I going to do? I will start just getting in my head about everything. Yeah. I think Rick Rubin, I got that advice kind of from Rick Rubin on an interview he did where he's like, I don't really listen. I mean, I will go back and listen to stuff, like go down memory lane, but for the most part, it's not really doing me any good to go listen to my old music just because. Yeah, because you built that from a place that was half incredibly genuine, and the other half of it was incredibly neurotic. And it's really hard, like when you're growing as an individual, to continually go back and revisit things that you're like, I have so much of a neurotic relationship with that, like I kind of want that to be done. Like, let me just reinterpret that live as I see fit and like do my thing. But like, it's not important to me to go back and re-listen to all of this stuff because there's so many memories. It took so much neuroses to even get what we got that it's not something that I want to relive, not because I don't appreciate, the end product, but because like I have a body knowledge of how hard it was to fucking get there. And it's not always the coolest thing to go back and spend time soaking in. Yeah. I'll do it if I've had like a couple drinks, okay. That's what it takes for you. Let's go. Let's do it. But I even like when it comes to putting out music now, I'm like, okay, I'll say I'm excited about it. Of course I'm excited about putting out a new song or putting out the record. Everyone's excited about putting out if you're not excited about it, you messed up. You messed up. You messed up. You can still question it, but you need to be excited about it. But now I think there's like this whole, I've been forced and to try to get on TikTok some, and I haven't really done a good job at it, but there's this whole trend now of like people posting, like they'll like be in their car and they're like, I just wrote the greatest breakup song of all time. And they hit play and they're just like singing along. Like, yes, I'm like, and people love it apparently. Yeah. Or TikTok likes it, whatever, kids like it. I was like, I could never do that. And if it works, I don't mean to come at that from like a judgmental standpoint. It's like, if that's what works to get their music out, great. But like, I'm like, I could never do that. If I'm on TikTok, I'll be like, here's a photo or here's a video of me shaking hands with my dog. Yeah. And my songs in the background. I totally understand what you mean, because there's an element to TikTok that, and again, I feel like I'm exactly in your ballpark where I'm not trying to place a value judgment. Like, I don't want to be the old fucker that doesn't get like how things are, or how people feel, or how they like, express that now via the internet. I know that's changing. I know it's becoming different, but like, I'm not that person. Whenever I do things like that, it feels performative and I feel disingenuous. It's easy. It's easy to be that person. It takes no effort to be like, well, when I was coming up in music, or like and you see it a lot in Nashville, like, well, old Nashville, it's like, that's such an easy attack. Right. It's exactly. So easy.
Exactly.
And what do you want to? Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure it was great. I moved here 10 years ago. Like, yeah, there were things I liked about it then. No, but I don't have any control who's putting up,
No.
There's a lot of nice restaurants now.
Yeah. I can't control the housing market or people from LA that can afford to live here.
I hate people to get priced out of, places they've lived forever, but it's out of my, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get it. That's awesome.
But it's just funny. Like, I guess we're not even that old, but you can kind of see how, like, with like the Gen Z world.
Dude.
I totally find myself like, well, when I was 16, I was in a van touring around the Southeast, and I didn't know anything, I didn't know what a record label did and all that. And I was just going to do my DIY shows and this and that. And now, like, I worked with an artist the other month. She was 19 and she was so talented. One of the best singers I've ever worked with. And she knew so much about the music industry. And I was like, that's amazing. Because when I was younger, I was just being ignorant. And also I was maybe being ignorant and, like, the information wasn't there.
Yeah.
YouTube. I guess YouTube.
No, you're right. You're right.
But I just didn't know, like, what an agent did versus a manager versus, like, I would have signed the first record deal I would have gotten and probably gotten screwed over. But now, like, people know their shit, and that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the internet has definitely, for all that it has made, a lot of the content that people create kind of vapid and replaceable really quickly. It's also a place of, like, gaining an awful lot of knowledge, right? So you can get on the internet and really get 1,000-foot view of what the music industry is with no strings attached. Like, you can see everybody's experience in it, from people that are on labels to indie labels to touring artists to people that are doing without labels, and, like, kind of see what their vibe and all of that is. And maybe you and I were fortunate, like, coming up in the time that we did, so we didn't have those kinds of things. So, like, we're living out our own karma in a certain way. Like,
it's easy to romanticize those things too. When if you really were able to time travel and go back into it, it's like you're probably picking out, like, the really, like, the best things to remember.
Yeah, exactly. But it was hard, and in the same way that, like, it was hard for you and I, it's hard in a different way for them because they have so much information. And I'm the kind of person that, like, if I have too much information, I immediately get on an overload because I want to be able to understand all of it. And so I think, like, everybody kind of has their cross to bear, and they have their thing to do in this time.
It can be distracting. I always joke. Could Bruce Springsteen have written Thunder Road if there was Instagram? I mean, I'm sure he's not addicted to Instagram, but that song to me is like the holy grail of like modernish songs. And I love the lyrics to that song so much, and it's like a mini book. Or it's like a chapter in a book.
Right.
And I'm so guilty of it now. And by no means am I ever comparing myself to Bruce Springsteen. But I use that as inspiration. And, like, there's so many times I'm like, I think I've gotten three pretty good verses here.
Yeah.
Let me zone out for a second and check my phone. And then, like, you don't realize what your brain is then just going away from creative mode to, like, just process all this random shit coming at you, and that's probably gonna mess up the fourth verse, which is gonna be the fourth verse of the song is gonna be the one that gets,
goddamn, Ben, 4 verses
Friday.
4 verses, is that necessary?
No.
I mean, give us 3 good ones. Give us 3 good ones and go home. Like, we're happy with that.
You never know. Never know.
That's awesome. So I remember being up at the cabin and, like, you guys working on 5 a.m. Paradise. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I even thought, like, then listening to, like, the skeletal structure of that song.
Yeah.
I was just, like, sitting there on the couch, like, listening to some of the vocal takes and stuff that you were doing. I was just like, man, this is great. This is there's a spirit about that song that definitely, like, draws you in. And then hearing the way that, I mean, I'm assuming, like, you and Jeremy and Owen sort of collaborated on that, but the final product of it that's been released, I just thought was absolutely gorgeous. Like, the octave melody lines, the verb usage, the way that everything came together in the mix, like, because that was the kind of thing that I felt like I could listen, like, I was having so much fun just listening to you play it on guitar and do those vocal takes with it, and it was just so raw and so unproduced,
Yeah.
And I thought it worked there.
I mean,
but
that was a team effort on that one, especially that one. I mean, I wrote that song with my buddy Luke Santel singing, and then he's really responsible for the demo that really gave us a nice blueprint for the full production. And the band I had when we were in Nashville, they were amazing. My buddy Julian on drums and Eli on bass, and like Julian has a very like specific way of hitting the drums. So it's just so in the pocket, and you can feel the intensity. He used to play in a band from Athens called The Wigs, who I was a big fan of.
Nice. And
especially for their drumming. So to have Julian play on the record was really special. And he's become a good friend now too. And Eli, my buddy Eli on bass, and Eli coming into the chorus with that bass riff that kind of starts high and kind of drops lower down, and it's so tasteful. And like that's something that would never have been there unless Eli was playing on the record. And my buddy Chris Donegan on guitar, who's just, he plays everything perfect, like the first time through, and perfect in the sense of like, it sounds, to me like he could play with Wilco or something, not like Nashville.
But this is going back to what we were talking about earlier. I really appreciate the quality about you that is able to immediately give credit to the community of people around you that are helping you create.
I mean, when we were making that song,
works,
Luke and I wrote the song, and I remembered how to play the song then. But when we got the band to track the song, like if you're like, hey band, go pick up a guitar, and I'd be like, okay, I need like 3 minutes to remember the chords to the song. And I'm going through that again right now, trying to learn all my songs for tour. And then obviously Jeremy and Owen are incredible. And it was a team effort, and that's why I live here in Nashville. It's like, so I could meet those people, and you can still meet those people without living in Nashville. It's just easier. It was the right path for me. I don't know if I'll be here in Nashville forever, but I definitely probably won't. But
well, there's always a place for you 3 hours away in Asheville if you want.
Owen and I talk about living in Asheville all the time.
If you want to take the in off.
I had a conversation with somebody. Well, this is totally off topic, but I had a conversation with someone once in Atlanta, and I told them I lived in Nashville, but they thought I said Asheville, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're going there this weekend. Do you recommend any good restaurants?" And I told them a bunch of restaurants in Nashville and had a whole conversation about it. And they're like, "Yeah, like excited to like get up to the mountains." And then I was like, well, "That's not."
And you're like, "What fucking mountains?"
So, I was like, "Oh fuck, they're going to Asheville," and then they had to go, and I was like, I didn't have time to correct the whole. You're like,
there's some great Waffle Houses.
10-minute conversation,
right?
Have fun in Asheville.
I love that. That's awesome.
But yeah, going back to the record, it was a team effort. And Owen and Jeremy I've worked with for a long time. Jeremy's really seen me grow up. I mean, Jeremy's known me since I was 16.
Yeah, I feel like Jeremy talks about you in the way in which like a proud papa talks
like
about somebody.
Older sibling.
Like older sibling,
oldest,
yeah.
I'm the oldest out of 3. So like, being the oldest, you kind of, you're the first one to, make the mistakes as a,
Oh, I get it. I'm the oldest out of 5.
Yeah.
So I understand that vibe.
And Jeremy's always been there along the way to be an incredible mentor and friend and just so many things. So I'm so grateful for our friendship.
Yeah, that's it. It's amazing to be able to do that. So right now within the world of like Old Sea Brigade, you have Monochrome that's come out.
Yeah.
Which is Monochrome like half the record or a third of the record or what? Like, did you have any say in what the release plan is for how you're going to roll it out?
Yeah, we just kind of picked the most singly sounding songs and put them up. I mean, then there's one more song that comes out this Friday. I don't know when this airs, but it comes out September 30th. Is this Friday the 30th? I should know when the song comes out.
Yeah, I mean, you should probably say what the name of the single is in case it does come out.
Yeah, it's called Some Days.
Okay, awesome.
And I told someone like the wrong release date of the record the other.
Yeah, 30th. This Friday would be the 30th. I don't know when this podcast is going to come out, but it will be the 30th.
So that'll be. How many singles are out right now? Are there 4, 5? I guess there'll be 5 singles out. I can't remember. So it's almost half the record. But yeah, so that'll happen. And the record comes out, and probably do some acoustic versions, and then I'll go play a lot of shows and question everything I do, and then probably make another record.
Man, I I hope. Yes, absolutely. As everyone does. I'm like, you always have a place to hang or free drinks if you ever come to Asheville for sure.
I'll definitely come back.
Yeah.
I actually might be coming to Asheville in October. I might go camping. So we'll have to maybe grab a beer.
Yes, we go camping all the time. You have to hit us up if you're looking for a cool place.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know we've gone like almost an hour and a half now.
Cool. All good.
But I would love to know, like one of the things we talk about on the podcast a lot of times is like people's religious backgrounds for better or for worse. There's no judgment. There's no agenda at all. Just out of an interest. Like, and I feel like maybe you and I even talked about this a little bit whenever you were in town, like making the record.
I think we did. I had a very interesting background. So I grew up in Atlanta, which is in the South, as everybody knows.
Hard to miss.
Yeah. It's kind of a bubble though in the South. It's not like growing up in like any other spot of Georgia, which is the real South.
Right.
Whatever that is. But so my dad grew up in New York City, moved to Atlanta. My mom's from South Georgia. Yeah. From a town called Brunswick. So my dad's from a Jewish family. My mom's from a Presbyterian family. And I don't know a lot about like Christianity and the different denominations and all of that, but it seems like Presbyterian is pretty chill when it's not like Southern Baptist or whatever.
Everybody that I knew that was getting laid at youth camp were Presbyterian. So I just assumed they probably were a little bit more chill.
Yeah, I had a feeling we were amongst the cooler kids. But we went to, I went to church, like I not really willingly, but it was kind of just part of the community. Yeah. And then it kind of just, it was confusing at times as well. Did like the confirmation thing at like 13 but got baptized. For me, I was like, this is fucking weird. And then my dad afterwards, he was like, hey, sorry, like we shouldn't have like, actually they didn't force me to do it, but I was 13. So like,
but he apologized for it afterwards. He was like, this is your mom's thing. Okay.
Yeah. We joke about it now. I'm like, hey, it's, I'm covered on both sides. So, if when I die,
That sounds highly superstitious for a child to be experienced.
But it's funny now, like getting to Nashville and I lived in New York for a while before and Miami and stuff. Didn't really encounter people that were traumatized from their religious upbringings as much as I meet people now in Nashville who are traumatized from their religious upbringings. And I have some friends that are just like, grew up in like Oklahoma and they're just have the worst experiences like dealing with the church and all of that.
That tracks Oklahoma.
And I'm not like, life is hard enough, whatever. If going to church is your thing and it makes you, everyone has some sort of thing. And it's like, it depends how you want to interpret it. But if you go to church and, you treat people right, that's the whole thing, fine. Yeah. So, and that's your community. That's great. It's just, it's not for me. There was like, when you're younger, you're really impressionable. And there were times I did go to like on a youth group trip to Mexico. And that was
hell yeah.
Weird. It was like real brainwashy, like people crying and stuff to like, pop Christian songs and.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And I look back on it, but I'm not really traumatized from it. I went because like me and my close friend went and like his older sister and like her friends went. So we got to hang out with like the older kids.
That's great. Were you crushing on his older sister or did you guys have a thing?
Probably her friends.
Her friend. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That totally tracks.
Yeah. But we were in like 7th grade and they were
you Presbyterian horn dog, you.
Yeah.
On the
we were
mission
in 7th
trip.
grade and they were in like 10th grade. Cool. This is cool. But yeah, I mean, my religious upbringing wasn't too bad. I mean, it was kind of down the middle.
I love that. But I'm thankful for you.
And I'm still interested in finding, the quest for a higher power and all of that, however you want to interpret it. And I find religion interesting.
If you had to decide tonight, like what happens when you're not dead? I'm sorry, when you're not alive.
When you're not dead.
When you're not dead.
When you're not dead.
I mean, I feel like that was actually the question I wanted to ask. If you are dead but you're not, what's the bet? Like, even if it's just your wildest imagination, like what you want to be or what you think might be when you're not here. Have you given that any thought, or what do you think that would be like?
I've like started meditating a lot more to like kind of dive a bit more inward, and to be honest, I haven't really gotten that many answers from it. But I do find it really calming, and I think it helps like me feel connected to nature.
Yeah.
And I think, I think you just, it
doesn't matter to you.
You feel a part. I do feel a constant push of being connected with the nature around me, and the trees in my yard.
Yes.
And like if there's this one tree by my studio that's like been here forever, and kind of it kind of hangs over my studio a bit, but it's not like a threat to the building by any means. But I remember someone was like, "Oh, we cut the tree down." And I was like, "No, we cannot." Like that tree knows a lot more than me and you. And
yes,
like it's stuff like that. Where when I was younger, I would probably be a bit more like cynical about it. I was like, "You're just being a hippie." I was like, "No, but we I think with all the technology and all of that, we lose."
I get it.
The connection to nature, and it's nice to just be outside and like quiet your mind down for a little bit. And, like it feels spiritual in some way, and I think it's freeing. I find it actually really freeing being like, I don't know what happens, and nobody else knows what happens.
Nobody else knows.
And if they do tell you, they're probably full of shit.
Yeah. Unless they went on Oprah and talked about it, in which case I would give that a lot of credibility. I love what you're saying, though. Like, you're right. I don't know why this is. I feel like it's a cultural thing, but it feels so woo-woo to people, right? Yeah. Whenever you talk about like, oh no, this like tree, I feel differently about this tree. No, you also are the tree. You are this thing that did not come to the earth, but you came out of it. Like you are a part of existence. You are playing a role. You're playing a part in this like biome of whatever we are, in the same way that tree is. And so it's like, even the older that I get, the more I feel like having these conversations feels so like fucking astral to people that are not attuned to it, or that don't care, or that aren't there necessarily like in life. But like my favorite thing to do now is just like walk through, especially now, like this time of year. Yeah. Like I walk outside on my porch and I'm like, I smell things changing. Like I can smell the trees when I'm taking walks in the woods. Like sometimes I'll just stop and like just put my hands on trees and just like tell them that I'm grateful for them. Things that would make me seem like a total jackass to most people like in the world. And be like, he doesn't have it together. Like he's an idiot.
I think the older you get, like the more you're in tune with yourself and like the world around you, you feel more pulled to nature. And I noticed that as a kid, like seeing how, the adults that, like I had like certain teacher, like I had a physics teacher who was just like, I thought he was like such a hippie. I mean, he was amazing and really smart, but I was like, I think you know something that like a lot of other people don't know. And maybe he does, but he was just so in tune with nature. And I was kind of confused by that. I was like, that's kind of boring, from like a 15-year-old.
I know.
But now like the older I get, like the more and more I'm like, I want to get out, go for a hike, or, just sit on the beach and soak it all in, just be appreciative,
I love it. Yeah.
The world.
Absolutely. Sand in your
ass. I
ass.
sit inside my studio a lot as well, which is also really cool. And I'm appreciative of that.
You and me both. I feel like I constantly fluctuate between like, oh my God, I'm here in the studio all the time. And just like, oh, fuck this. I got to go get some sunlight. I need something. I need trees. I need a hike. I need to smell air. I need to feel wind. And the second I get out there in it, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I should probably get back in the studio like any minute now and start working on stuff.
I wish I could have an outside studio, but that technology isn't there yet. So.
Maybe one day you will be of the tax bracket that you can have anything outside that you want. And I wish that.
I don't want that.
I wish that upon you.
I don't want that. Nothing good is going to come from that.
I want that for you because I feel like you're the kind of person that would share that with me and your other friends.
I'll give you a call if that ever happens.
Okay. That's awesome. Dude, thank you so much for talking with me tonight.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
It's been so awesome. I love catching up with you. I love hearing
you
all these
too,
different
man.
thoughts, like all these different things that we didn't have the time to kind of dig into last year. It's really great. I think you have a beautiful heart. I think you have an amazing brand and type of artistry, and you are in the same way that there are trees that I feel drawn to on my walks in the woods. I feel like you are a person that I felt drawn to, and I appreciate your artistic output. Thank you for spending time with me. I've had the most lovely Tuesday night I could have ever hoped for. So thank you.
Thanks, man. I've had a great time. I really appreciate it.
Eleventylife is a production of Rock